All right, those are the concerns of NECA at this time, and there are other developments nationally. One of that is that the federal government gave the approval through the National Committee on Naming, Registration and Release of Crop Varieties, Livestock Breeds and Fisheries during its 32nd meeting at the conference hall. And the approval is of 10 new varieties of crop, which includes 4 varieties of wheat, 4 of potato, and 2 synthetic maize varieties. So let's talk about this. Already, well, there's some conversations about these bringing down the price of bread. That, of course, will be very interesting and most needed in the country at this time. But let's see how realistic, this is with a farmer who a bit vast on some of these issues. Mr. Tunde Banjoko, the managing director of Omotunde Banjoko Farms, joins us virtually this morning from Ajah. Mr. Banjoko, thank you so much for your time. Good morning.
Good morning, Nigeria, and thank you for having me.
So you refuse to face the traffic and come to our studio, Mr. Banjoko? That's not fair. You should show us some love by going through it with us.
Thank God yesterday they suspended work on it, so I'm sure for the next few days we'll enjoy it.
Temporary relief, because this morning I had to go through a bit of it. But anyway, so when you heard this news, what was your reaction? I guess you were excited as a farmer.
As a farmer, I'm excited, but I know the gains is not going to be in the immediate, like people expected and as some media houses projected it to be. The seeds were released to farmers, not to the market, as many put it in their report. So people were expecting immediate reduction in price of wheat in the market. That's not going to happen in the immediate. So that's why I think there's a mix-up. Like you rightly said, it was not just only, wheat that was introduced into the market. Wheat was introduced, maize was introduced, pot tomatoes were introduced, and this is not the first time that it's been done. In 2022, January 2022, about 49 varieties were introduced, and 3 of that was durum wheat. In December 2020, they released about 18. So it's not something that will see the effect immediately.
So those ones that were released before now, do we have them in the market as we speak?
I would say yes, but not all. Because, for example, CBN projected to have about 400,000 tons into the market last year. From what they did, because they did about 100,000 hectares in 16 states. But I was told, and from my own research, some of those states were affected by flood. So until we wait for the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics to give us if CBN was able to meet their 400,000 tons. But of course, that has added some volume because we have moved from 55,000 to 99,000 to about 420,000 tons now in Nigerian production of wheat. So I think we are gradually having some changes, but we are not there yet. We are still far from where we are going because at the moment, we have just roughly about 420,000 tons of wheat that we produce locally, and that on an annual basis, and we consume about 5.7 million tons annually. So there's still a huge gap. And for us to cover that gap, we'll probably have to continue this trend for the next 10 years on the average. Maybe in the next 2-3 years, we'll now start seeing the price dropping off if we continue this path of continuous investment into this sector and we address those other factors that affect our yield. Because releasing the variety alone will not reduce the price of wheat in the market, will not reduce the price of bread and pasta as we are envisaging in the immediate.
Yeah, interesting. A lot of points you brought out there when you talk about wheat and reduction in the price of pasta and bread, because a lot of people still talk about the different breeds of both wheat and all that. The one grown in Nigeria is not good for some product or some food, and you still have to import. So I wonder if these new varieties will be enough, or will be the right one for us to use for pasta, and so we will not have to.
So we are doing the two already. Like I said, the one that was released in January 2022, has durum wheat, which is the hard one, the hard wheat that has high resistance and all that. And then the normal wheat. The durum wheat is largely used for pasta, while the other wheat is used for bread majorly. So we are already working on the two. We are planting the two already in Nigeria, so we're on the right path already. So and about 16 states in Nigeria is supporting those variety already. So I think it's a good move. And when you look at those involved in this release of the variety that we have now, I think this last one is supported by the Lake Chad Research Institute, the International Institute of Improvement for Wheat and Maize in Mexico, and I think the Flour Millers Association are also involved. So both the users and the research institute are involved, and I think the farmers are also involved. So, and the test run has been done even before it was released. So I think we'll start having all the various varieties that we need and that we have in the country.
And I hope we will be able to convince Nigerians to believe in the locally produced one, because sometimes, yeah, we do have these things, but some people actually prefer to still import.
Like I said, that's why the collaboration in this new variety that was released is very important. The Flour Millers Association were involved, even technically and financially, in the release of this variety. So, and they have also committed to to the country, that they will encourage the association members to embrace the use of this local variety. So if they are encouraging their members to use it because they are also involved in the process, then there will be wide acceptance. Then, of course, we need to now convince the farmers too on the benefit of this new variety, because it has high yield, then the heat resistance, and then, so if we can convince the farmers more, and some farmers were involved, the Wheat Association farmers were also involved in the test run. I believe if it's accepted by the farmers already, if it's accepted by the millers, who are the large users and the majority stakeholder in this, then we should have the benefit in the market, maybe hopefully from the next 1 or 2 seasons. If we can increase from where we are, move it up a little, maybe at least by 10%, 20%, then we'll start seeing those changes. And, we'll be able to also save large funds. At least we can be saving at an average of 500 billion every year if we're able to increase in this tempo.
So the other time you mentioned other factors involved.
Yes.
Have the farmers gone back to the farms on the average? I just want to know. We are all in the country. We still saw what happened in Plateau State some weeks back. But from my little understanding, some of those states that are major producers of wheat, for example, are relatively calm. So we have to say that, like Borno State, to the best of my knowledge, Borno State is good. Jigawa too is one of our major, producers of wheat. We have most of the states in the northwest, northeast, and part of north central are the people we rely on for our wheat. So the security is better in some parts, but some of them are still not good enough. So at least for those parts that are good now, it will add to what we already have. So that's one of the factors, because it's one thing to bring out a variety. If that variety is not planted on that large scale that we expect, then we'll not get the benefit and the effect of the research. The research will just be, at best, a research lying on the table of the research institute. But we can get the research materials to the farms, because that's another point I will quickly bring out, is the issue of diversion. We should be sure that these seeds are not diverted from the real farmers or from the farming community in Nigeria. It should not be diverted to some neighboring states or neighboring country, as it were, or exported for other selfish reasons. But if we can push this volume, for example,
The one CBN did in 2021-2022 season, they gave out about, out of the 13,000 tons they imported, they kept some. 50,000 hectares was for multiplication, so they could get more to distribute to more farmers. So we should be asking ourselves, where are those ones they multiplied? Have they been given to farmers, or they are just somewhere lying? So if we can get these things to the farmers, we can protect the farmers and then support with funding for those that might be needing funding, and every technical assistance that is needed, then will be good.
So I'm going to follow up on that later. But first of all, let me ask you another factor which I think is also a hurdle to, increasing our supply. The issues around the processing, the use of the pesticides, because some people do have a problem with that. Like I met someone who says she imports corn for popcorn because the chemicals and things used in Nigerian produced corn doesn't make it pop well enough and doesn't have the crisp taste that is expected. So what about all those processes? Who is working with the farmers so that even when they have this seed and the variety, they can actually produce it right for it to be used for all that it has to be used?
What I would say to that is, for that person and other people who think we have different varieties of maize. Like even this 10 that were released, we had 2 synthetic maize that were released. The one that were released in 2022, there were maize there. So it's for us to find out maybe the farmers planting what you need. Let us know if the person can approach a farmer or a research institute. They will tell them what is available, and you realize there are farmers already planting that same thing, and it's cheaper for us. And then, so if that is handled in that way, we know it. And then for the other part of monitoring what farmers are doing, really for now, we don't have enough extension workers. We don't have enough extension workers, so we need to mobilize and encourage more people to go into that aspect of, extension services, giving technical support to farmers. Normally they should be going on motorbikes, visiting farmers' community, educating them, and letting them know how things are to be done. But we have the ratio in Nigeria, I'm not sure it will be wide apart, farmers to extension agents. The numbers are wide apart. So we need to employ more. Maybe at the local government level, at the state level, we need to bring in more people working as extension agents, and then we'll be able to resolve it. But it's really, and then in terms of our storage too, so we are still not storing them very well. That's why we are still have some of those challenges. There are modern techniques of storing grains now, where they are preserved and the quality is good. So that's what I would say. If we are able to resolve all those, then we'll be good. I think we have enough varieties. We have enough to meet up. If we can be meeting up for the likes of the Nestle, then popcorn should be the least. We should have enough. We have enough people doing, organic planting, even for maize now in Nigeria, street corn in Nigeria. So for popcorn, I think we have enough and we can handle it.
Okay, so it goes back to that issue of convincing Nigerians to believe in the locally produced crops. To start with. But how are they supposed to work closely with farmers to shorten the chain of communication, so the farmers can directly work with these new varieties, because they are the ones, you're a farmer. You guys are the ones who will eventually plant and produce these varieties that we're looking forward to. What should the chain look like from the government to the science group, who work with this producing variety, and then to the farmers?
I think the current structure now is, once a research institute comes up with a new variety or a seed producing company, you submit it to the technical committee of the NCVRVC, and then they look at it. They will now go to the ecological zone you have projected or predicted to them to work on, and they will also do it on some farmers' land and work with some other farmers group. It's after that they name and release to the market. So one of the routes they take is to work with the Farmers Association that are involved in that commodity. So I think one of the ways to get these things to farmers, like you rightly said, is to probably do more publicity about some of these events and new production. Because I'm sorry to say, not every farmer probably gets to read or listen to news from time to time. So we need to do more sensitization. And that will also still go back to we getting more extension agents, collaborating more with private sectors, because these are mostly government institutions. So they now need to work more with private farmers like us to, create awareness, seminars, programs, to launch it not just within the research community, but within the farmers community. So it's more really of larger orientation and doing serious publicity within the farming community. If we're able to do that, then it will be widely accepted, and then it can be planted, and then we'll start seeing the results.
All right.
So we can really put it down. Thank you.
Okay, just before we let you go, this used to be far, but it seems it's now really close. The risks of genetically modified crops, because this is where it points to. Before we used to be, in America, they have a lot of GMs and it's not healthy. It has its own dangers. It's close home now. How safe are we?
We are very safe. I would say we are very safe, because if you look at, I'll still go back to the ones that were just released. Two of the maize varieties too are synthetically modified. So they go through a process before they are released into the market. And I think this word genetically modified should be understood. What does it mean to genetically modify something? It means we are bringing, maybe another better word people relate with more is to the word hybrid, meaning I'm bringing the qualities of this one, adding it to this one to resolve this problem. For example, the ones we are bringing out now has high resistance to heat, because heat has been one of the challenges. So you look at which one has this, which one has high yield. You bring out that quality. You bring all these things together. And as long as they have been tested, and before some of these things are released into the market, it's not just the work of 1 week. They take months. I dare say some of them take years before they are released. So I think they've gone through the proper scrutiny by our research institutes before they are released into the market. So we are very safe, but we really need to embrace technology. It's part of technology. This multiplication is part of technology. And if we don't, like the person you gave as an example, the ones they are importing, I'm sure they were not there when they planted it. They were not there, and they were not sure of the entire process. So some of these things, in terms of multiplication, they go through different process. As long as they are certified by our various institutes, they are good. So it's just bringing out the best from different varieties. That's what I would say to that. So it's nothing to fear, to worry about.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Banchiko, for that assurance. We'll hold you to your words. Well, thank you.
That actually happens to all crops and all products.
Okay.
For us to have the best out of them.
All right. Thank you, Managing Director for Motunde Banchiko Farms, for your time this morning. And those insights really came in very handy, explaining all of that. We appreciate your time. And do have a great holiday starting from tomorrow.
You too, Winnie. Thank you for having me.
Great. All right, let's take a break now. When we come back, it will be commodities time. And who knows what we're going to talk about. Join us after the break.